He is a social scientist, psychologist and author. He earned his Master of Arts degree and completed his Doctor of Philosophy degree at the University of Gorakhpur. With an academic career spanning over 4 decades plus, he has taught in many esteemed institutions such as Gorakhpur, Allahabad, Bhopal, prior to assuming the role of a professor at Delhi University. Professor Mishra ultimately held the position at the Department of Psychology and Dean at the Faculty of Arts, University of Delhi. In addition, he held the role of Vice Chancellor at Mahatma Gandhi Antarashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya in Wardha. Professor Mishra was a Fulbright Fellow in the United States at the University of Buckingham. Presently, Professor Mishra is Honorary Professor, Faculty of Contemplative Behavioral Sciences, Psychology at Sri Sri University, Odisha. Apart from his noteworthy editorial contribution to several esteemed publications, Sir has served with a number of institutions and projects. Unlimited achievements हैं, अगर मैं पढ़ता चला जाऊँ तो शायद आधा घंटा लग जाएगा. My gratitude, sir, accepting our request. यकीनन ये बहुत बड़ी बात है कि सर हमारे साथ हैं. We are honored. I hope, I am sure, and my words to you, we will be at your expectations. बहुत ही interesting बात होने वाली है. Thank you so much, friends. We are ready for an academic session. I am sure you have decided to join this course to have a better grasp of research methodology, and my job will be to facilitate achieving that goal. To this end, I plan to talk about research and paradigms of research in social science. The word research is used in many ways. People use the word research simply to tell that they are looking for something and they are searching in the website, or there is market research, companies do various kinds of surveys, TV channels, they also do research. We are concerned with scientific research. And scientific research is one which contributes to knowledge. And secondly,
research also follows certain discipline in conducting the inquiry. As an academician, our job is to have dependable method to create knowledge. And in the course of last about 2 centuries, much has been said, discussed, deliberated about the nature of science and how science proceeds, how science works, what are the gains and what are the problems. I would like to mention that when we talk about social science research in India, there has been certain kind of dissatisfaction. People are not satisfied with the practices of research and outcomes of research. You must have heard about the problem of plagiarism. You also find that many of our studies hardly tell anything new. They repeat what has already been done. So there is no creation of knowledge, no addition, no value addition to knowledge. So there is a dissatisfaction. All the regulating agencies and bodies like UGC and ICSSR and NAC and whatnot, they have made observations that the quality of research should be improved. ICSSR has decided to sponsor capacity building programs like this, where you learn to improve the quality of research. I'm not sure about the background of all of you, except that you have done your masters, many of you have done PhD, maybe that some of you are pursuing your PhD, many of you must have supervised PhD or master's dissertation and work at different levels where research is used. Now, almost all master level courses have a compulsory paper of research methods in almost all social sciences. And we have a picture of what is the meaning of research and what we do. I think we have accepted that research starts with a problem, you need hypothesis, you need variables, you need certain kind of statistical techniques to analyze the data, and then you draw certain conclusions. If you ask a student what he is doing or she is doing, the student will come and say, "Sir, we are doing data collection. Now data analysis. Now we are writing." It seems to be a kind of mechanical process which is going on. There is no question of whether there is any improvement in knowledge building, which is the goal of research. And you follow certain rules, certain procedures, and there are certain stereotypes. There are some words which are very important, but the result is significant or not. Your ears are prepared to listen the word significant. If it is significant, you are happy. Not significant, then you are in trouble. What to do with that? And we often undertake research, please remember it. Most of the time our research is, the Vice Chancellor used two words, inductive and deductive. So, largely the research is deductive. You read a theory and from there you take a problem. And you identify variables, then you find out the tools to measure that, assess that, quantify that. A system is in place. You have to do this. So it is largely deductive. Inductive is one which comes from background. Inductive is one which comes from ground. And it relates to some kind of a problem which is there, then you start the work. So there may be theory driven and there may be problem driven. There is also another kind of research, methodology or method driven research. So you find a new tool. Once upon a time, Kettle 16PF was a tool to assess personality, and thousands of students started working on what is the relationship between personality and something else. Now there is another tool, NEO-PI, New Personality Inventory, which includes 5 factors of personality. So you are still doing that. So method-driven research is another kind of research. There is a method, there is a tool, so you are doing research. Not because there is a need to do that research. Since that tool is there, so you have to do research, take the tool and do the research. You have a tool, then you go to different samples and collect data. Not only that, there are also people who simply collect a lot of data, then they try to think what to do with that data. Then they try to think about some problem where that can be put together and some sense can be made. So if you go to the background, you will see that the research is outcome of all these diverse reasons. There are many reasons why you are doing research. They lead to different kinds of outcomes. And it is very difficult to see the connection between the method and the problem and the outcome. This is the scenario on the ground. Therefore, it is very important to sincerely look into the issues pertaining to methods. I just wanted to share with you the worry and anxiety which many people have about research and the relevance of this kind of exercise. So there are diverse reasons of doing research. There are diverse methods. But the dominant way of doing research follows some kind of foundational belief, some kind of framework to understand reality. And that framework has something to do with the word or concept called paradigm. I would like to spend some time to discuss that also. Paradigm refers to worldview. And that paradigm tells about some key aspects of doing research. You study something, what is that thing is called ontology. What is that which is being studied? And the outcome of study is knowledge. So what is the nature of knowledge? How that knowledge can be gained? All these issues are discussed in epistemology. And the third is axiology, that is about values, the relevance, the application. So these are the aspects, and they taken together, these we call that as a paradigm. I think it is also important to know that in philosophical discourse, idealism, rationalism, realism are some very important notions. There is also a very important difference between subject and object, and subjectivity and objectivity. A major guiding force in research is positivism. And positivism says that reality is independent of you. It is there out, and your job is to remain neutral and control everything and study the reality objectively. That is the positivist spirit, and that comes from natural sciences, physical sciences, where you study certain aspects of nature, certain aspect of physical reality, like physics, like chemistry. And that is considered to be the correct form of knowledge. Physics is considered to be the best subject, most scientific, because you can study things objectively. Now, who is the father of social sciences? Yes, you are right.
Sir, I was counting.
Why? Huh? Good, that's correct. Comte adopted positivism as a model for social science. influenced by the success in physical sciences, it was thought proper to adopt that for human sciences, for social sciences. So we started the same way to understand reality. Positivism is taken there. In fact, he coined the word social physics, like psychophysics, which is an important branch in psychology. See the importance of physics. No doubt it's important, but is it okay to use that as a model for social science or human behavior, human reality? That is the issue. So positivism was criticized by many people. And subsequently, a number of moves were made which have gone beyond the simple positivist way of doing research. Where subjectivity is considered not a problem but a solution. Not an issue to be neglected and, removed, but to be respected. The alternative view which emerged, which goes beyond positivism, has many names, many schools of thought. It will take a lot of time to elaborate all of them, so I will very briefly mention them. For instance, now we have constructionism. Constructionism assumes that reality is not independent of the observer. Reality is not independent of the observer. You observe something, and what you observe depends on how you observe, who is observing. Your perspective is also very important. Right? There is a social problem and all parties explain it differently because of their different ways of looking at the problem. So, constructionism assumes that there is no one single way because subjectivity is quite different. Remember, hegemony of one view comes from positivism, and constructionism offers the position that आप भी सही हो सकते हो, आप भी सही हो सकते हो, आप भी सही हो सकते हो. It is a view from somewhere, and your positioning becomes very crucial. So, for example, a communist has one kind of positioning, and the person thinks that these are the reasons of the problem. Constructionism has many shades, at least that is my understanding. Like feminist inquiry, that is also a kind of constructionism. That the feminist view recognizes that the theories are dominated by male bias. They present reality from one angle. You must have heard about Carol Gilligan's study of morality, where she has questioned the work of Walbert and others, and given that responsibility and justice, there are different ways of looking at morality and ethics and all. So feminism is also one model of constructionism. Then there is, more recently, a participatory kind of paradigm that has emerged. And that also has many shades. Have you heard about cooperative inquiry? Anyone? Cooperative inquiry. It is very interesting. Now there are books and publications about that. Cooperative inquiry is one where the researcher and the researched, the subject or participant, both joined the planning and conducting of research. Not only that, in some forms of cooperative inquiry, there are cycles of study, like in one cycle, researcher S1, respondent R1. In the next phase, researcher, respondent becomes a researcher and the person who is studying becomes participant. Like you are an economist and you want to study poverty of poor. So you ask questions from poor. Next day, the poor will ask questions from you. So cooperative inquiry takes these turns. There are cycles. So knowledge is joint production of the two. Otherwise you simply say subjects participated. वो तो कुछ है ही नहीं. They have no place in your research. Do they have? They have provided data that साल भागो. Don't bother about that. No place. You have got the knowledge. क्या जरूरत? But cooperative inquiry recognizes, and some people even use their names as authors of articles published out of that research. So, participatory inquiry has different forms. Cooperative inquiry is one example of participatory research. Feminist research is one. Then there is another shade which is called critical paradigm. And critical paradigm actually comes close to the Marxist view, the class struggle, the conflict, which is there in societies where there are rich, where there are poor, and how they interact, and who is exploiting, who is being exploited. You can't do research irrespective of time and place. शाश्वत ज्ञान आप रिसर्च जो करते हैं, and the way you report, it seems that you are creating some kind of knowledge free from time and place. You have one variable, the other variable correlation. Is there any scope for time and place and people? वो सब आप हटा देते हैं, सारे जो एड्रेस हैं सब खत्म कर देते हैं. केवल बस वेरिएबल आया, and you study that variable and see that. I think I will remind you about two perspectives, idiographic and nomothetic. Idiographic is about the individual. Doctor provides prescription to one patient that he has this problem, he needs this kind of treatment. And nomothetic is the general or one which is applicable to a broader group or community or so, all variables or things like that. So nomothetic is generalizable knowledge, and idiographic is which is specific to case and individual. So that kind of distinction has been made, idiographic and nomothetic. So positivism was very critically examined and its limitations were noted, and a move is continuing actually in the direction of constructionist kind of methodology. And there are many such paradigms and lot of researches are going on. Now, subjectivity is removed and subjectivity is accepted. Positivism was emphasizing objectivity and constructionism respects local knowledge, temporal context, social context, subjectivity as an important feature of understanding and reality. Positivism was trying to discover the reality, and constructionism was constructing the reality. Reality is constructed by your method, by you, by your thoughts. So, this has led to new kinds of methods, new ways to do things. And a critical perspective contributed to developing an awareness of the discrepancies, the gaps, disparities, conflicts which are present in society. That knowledge has responsibility to solve the problem, to address the issues, to reduce the gap. उस ज्ञान से क्या फायदा जो कि गरीबी न दूर करे? Why to waste that money? Anyway, so there is no one single model. There are different ways to understand reality. The positivist and those you may broadly call non-positivist, constructionist, which will focus on construction of reality. And that opens the whole debate about the choice of various methods. I think most of our courses of social science research were designed according to the positivist mode. The new wave, which started in 90s, I'm using the word 90s because then the move became stronger. Of course, it is quite old to use that method. And that is often called qualitative methods. Have you done qualitative methods in your master's program? How many? Where did you study?
So, here from Department Center for Women's Studies.
So in women's study there is qualitative method. That itself is predominantly one which questions the existing dominant hegemony biases. Otherwise, you can yourself see, nobody is saying. At Delhi University, I did introduce qualitative method as a separate full paper equal to the quantitative paper in 97, 98. And since then it is continuing there. It is not less important. So qualitative methods provide another way to understand reality. Now, I try to distinguish the two views, the qualitative and quantitative. Why? And I would also like to emphasize a few more things about the term paradigm before coming to the distinction between qualitative and quantitative. The word paradigm, I think some of you must have heard the name of the person associated with it. Who is that guy?
Thomas Kuhn.
Thomas Kuhn. If you know Thomas Kuhn, then what is the name of the book?
Paradigm shift. Paradigm shift.
No. Kuhn's book is, this was published in 1960. The title is Scientific Revolutions. What is the nature of scientific revolutions? He was a physicist and he wanted to study how science has grown. So a kind of a history of scientific understanding. And he noted some interesting things. If you have not gone through that, then it may be interesting for you. I will very briefly summarize his work. What he says is that he was talking about physical sciences, and he said that in the beginning, in the course of time, there is a lot of confusion. So somebody says this is more important, water is the smallest or lowest or the fundamental thing. Somebody says air, somebody says this, that. I'm giving you example that there is variety of thinking. जिसके मन में जो आ रहा होगा ये है ये है ये है. No, nothing like that. All this is going on. And this is called pre-paradigmatic thinking or pre-paradigmatic stage. When there is confusion, diversity in views, different perspectives. Then comes a stage where one perspective dominates. And that becomes the paradigm. Now that paradigm is accepted by the scientific community. And that rules. It rules in such a way that everything which does not follow that paradigm is rejected. उसको best paper basket में डाल देते हैं. If your result is not significant, it will not be published. It has to be significant at 0.01 level. Then it will be published. If not, no publication. This is paradigm. Paradigm will tell कि कौन in होगा, कौन out होगा. And this paradigm continues. Then, for example, Newton gave a paradigm to understand reality. Principles were there. Then there is a change when Einstein comes who talks about relativity. सब कुछ हर जगह वैसे का वैसे नहीं चलेगा. So this is revolution. And this will again continue for some time. Then there will be a change. So in science, knowledge grows in this way. Pre-paradigm, paradigm, revolution, then again confusion, then again change. So it's not something बिल्कुल सीधी रेखा में जा रहा है. No, it's not like that. So scientific growth is in terms of paradigm and revolutions and all. This view is quite acceptable by many people. Of course, there are various other interpretations. Some people, some thinkers. Actually, the philosophy of science is the area in philosophy which talks about all these issues. what is the nature of science. There is one gentleman, his name is Fireband. He is pure firebrand. He writes a book, the title is Against Method, Against Religion, and he is very critical of science. And in so many ways he illustrates beautifully, clearly, that science is not so scientific as it is said. It's also a human activity subject to all kinds of errors and problems. I remember a book by, I think, Latour and Woolgar, that is the name perhaps of the authors. They were anthropologists and sociologists, and they studied what is going on in laboratory. And the book is Laboratory Life. And they studied where Nobel laureates were working, the best minds and scientists, how they were doing science, how they were thinking, how they were testing, how they were doing their so-called discoveries. So the myth of rationality, white coat, and then you see in the advertisement that scientist says like this, like God. So you can't question that. So the whole thing is that no, science is also subject to errors. It's not rational and objective and true as has been assumed. Again, subjectivity becomes quite important. So people have written a lot, it is still going on, the nature of paradigm and change. Some people say that mean paradigm remains, only there are certain marginal corrections which are made gradually. So there are many interpretations of that. It's very interesting if you read that stuff to understand how science grows, or history of science, and historiography of science. That in itself is an interesting way. So everything is not well in hardcore science also. And in laboratory life they studied very competent Nobel laureate and doing great research and in their labs, and then they have come up with these observations. So there's some truth in that. So paradigms are there, and paradigm becomes very important. And if a paradigm is dominant, other things will be removed. That happens. If you see the journals, publications, and there are many such problems which impact how science proceeds. So, understanding paradigm and if you have done research or doing research, you must have seen that your dialogue with your supervisor tells you should not do this research. It's not worthwhile or not feasible, are very big problem. So how you view something, it depends on the paradigm with which you are working. So I am more familiar with psychology. If you go to psychology, you have many paradigms or paradigms if you want to call. Psychoanalysis, for example, is one paradigm which talks about reality in one way, covers many layers of your mind. Many of them cannot be subjected to so-called scientific principles, and things are like that. So there are different paradigms. It is accepted if you work in one paradigm. It is not accepted in another paradigm. And if you go to the details, basic to understanding a given concept. Those who are familiar with the concept of personality, they must be knowing that there are so many theories of personality, and they consider personality development and stages and everything in so many ways. There are major and minor differences, how they are analyzed. So it is because personality is like that, therefore the theory is like that, or it is the theory which says that personality is like that. What is the relationship between theory and data? Theory and fact. Facts are theory driven. Something is a fact from one theory. From other theory, it is Buddha. No question of being fact. I often reminded by an interesting episode. Do you know Piaget? He was an assistant to Binet. Do you know Binet? Alfred Binet? Binet Simon, the test, intelligence test, was started with Binet. Binet was interested in studying children, those who were not doing well in the school, so he wanted to see children with difficulties, less intelligent, whatever you want to call it. Then it led to the notion of intelligence and measurement of intelligence and intelligence test. Binet-Simon test is one of the earliest tests of intelligence. And Piaget was an assistant to Binet. Piaget found that children are doing certain errors. So Binet was counting the errors and knowing that this child is not good, this child is good, intelligent, less intelligent. Piaget said, oh, there are qualitative differences in the responses. And you must have known about his four-stage theory of cognitive development. So for a sensory motor, the reality is different. तो एक बच्चे के लिए ये थिंकिंग की बादल जो है वो चल रहा है. A child who is at a lower level, it is correct according to the level of cognitive development. It is not correct. उसको ये कहना, it is the quality of thinking, like conservation, and those who are not able to have conservation. I am using the phrase from Piaget. Those who understand, they will follow it. What I am saying is that within that theory, it has a particular meaning. And so, what behavior has one meaning in one theory, the same behavior has different meaning in another theory. So, data are theory driven. This is very important. Now you can't decide about the theory whether it is right or wrong on the basis of data. Because data itself is theory driven. Theory tells and then you get the data. You can't use that data to test other theory. Look, anyway, these are difficult questions. But what I am saying is that in the name of science, everything is okay. There are problems, there are paradigmatic issues, and they provide different ways to understand reality. I want to connect it with the kind of methods which have grown, which have developed, and which have normally been grouped within qualitative and quantitative categories. I would like to spend some time with you on finding out the distinction between the two. May I request you to tell some difference between the two? Come forward. Qualitative and quantitative.
The qualitative is more
As
in
the
depth.
name suggests, qualitative is something that we look after quality, but in the quantitative we look after number.
Sir, qualitative much in terms of theory building, but in quantitative we quantify data. With the help of data we prove a fact or build a theory. But qualitative is only theory building with the reference of some other previous or primary sources.
As you already said, inductive ways of doing qualitative ways, inductive way, and deductive way of quantitative or basically deductive way.
Qualitative, it's more
focuses
subjective.
on subjectivity and gives more importance to subjectivity, while the quantitative is
More
also
objective.
So qualitative is basically a meaning driven, where the meaning is driven out, interpreted, and basically quantitative is more over about the testing of parameters. Yes, sir.
Anything that you would like to add to what has been said?
So qualitative follows interpretivist approach, and the quantitative one follows the positivist approach.
We input questions based on the answers of the respondents so that we can get more in-depth data of them.
Good.
in quantitative we use mathematical formulas, techniques. We apply some mathematical techniques. In quantitative, we generally interpret.
Qualitative is more difficult.
So, in quantitative reading is a kind of variable. There are different number of variables. In qualitative there are many variables.
Anything else? Okay. Good. I'm happy that you have a grasp of the difference. I would like to add a few things. I accept what you have said. The first thing which I would like to mention is that qualitative research is about the process. Process means continuity. And in quantitative, it's all dissected, separate, independent things. You have independent variables. So instead of those separate variables connecting through your computation and getting the relationship, here you study the process which goes on from one place to the other. This process orientation is one. And the second and most important the view which I would like to share, you have not said that, but you understand that. I will just reiterate that the qualitative has a commitment to the insiders, while the quantitative is largely outsiders. There is another word. Spectator. You are here and you are saying something. You are spectator. And you don't understand from their perspective. Two persons are meeting and hugging each other, and you may understand that they are lovers, you may understand they are friends, you may understand anything. Now simply observing that behavior may lead to different kinds of impressions. हो सकता है कि आप पुलिस वाले के पास चले जाए, देखो भैया हाथ पकड़ो ही. Now who are they? What is their perspective? You don't know it. You are a spectator. Then there is another very important point which is crucial. that when you quantify something, you lose something. 5-point scale. What is that? You don't understand. And it is really very difficult. Love 5-point scale, intelligence 5-point scale, everything is on 5-point scale. So what is the meaning of that? When you measure milk, तो लीटर का यूज करते हैं. When you measure vegetable, तो ग्राम का यूज करते हैं. अगर यहाँ तो सभी 5-point scale. You correlate, you do whatever you want to do. जिसको जिसे चाहो मिला दो, घटा दो, जोड़ दो, जो चाहो सो करो. तो बेचारे तो कुछ कहने वाला नहीं है. It's very problematic. You have the number, and with number, whatever can be done with computer, you can do that. What really that number means, no one knows. The power of number in all the scales is very different. They refer to different things. But you have, सबको आपने मिला दिया है. Again, it is very problematic. We hardly bother. There is a 10-item scale, there is 20-item scale, there is 30-item scale, and you have 10, 10, 10, तीनों में correlation निकाल दीजिए. लेकिन meaning तो 10 की तीनों की अलग-अलग होगी. You need to do something more, but we don't do it. Whatever score you have, you just correlate for tax. You have all the correlations. Anyway, if you go into the details, you दिमाग खराब हो जाएगा. What I am doing. So it's an insider's view. What is the meaning of that, which has been mentioned by you? We are more concerned with the meaning, subjectivity. What is the experience of the person, not the construal of the researcher. A good qualitative researcher will be one who captures the view, adopts the view, develops himself or herself as that person who is participating in research. And then, as has been mentioned by you, that it is the interpretation which is important. It is interpretive. Because it is not reality as such, but how it is interpreted is more important. In the physical world, you have measures of various things as they are. But here, that will not work. You can't rely on that. It's the meaning and interpretation which is more crucial. And the critical question in quantitative research is what? What is independent variable? The most important independent variable is being searched. But in qualitative, how is more important? How it occurs? What relates? The links. And therefore, almost all qualitative methods, उनका जो data है वो language and linguistic becomes, that resource becomes very crucial. There is a method called ethnomethodology, where silence is also coded, and that has a meaning. It's not only that you are speaking, लेकिन आप चुप रहते हैं तो उसका भी meaning है. And it is not only numbers, what you say, and photographs, and events, and music, and dance. You see, हमारी कितना जिंदगी का डेटा है जो हम लोग यूज ही नहीं करते. रियलिटी को समझने के लिए we rely so much on numbers that जिंदगी का बहुत सारा हिस्सा हमारे डेटा में आता ही नहीं है. फाटक बंद कर देते हैं, जाओ तो उधर, हम तो बस ऐसे करेंगे ना, उनको नाप करके रख देंगे, स्केल देंगे. So, I mean, language is not utilized in our data, which is so important. उस लैंग्वेज को भी इस तरह से उलाट पलाट के you redesign and do all kinds of things. So, जो data sources हैं, visual ethnography, all that is taking place. Not only that, the language of science is one which cannot be understood by others. फिजिक्स का जर्नल आप समझ सकते हैं कि क्या उसका मतलब है? नहीं समझ सकते. All of them are in different, उनकी identity और सब कुछ इस तरह का. It is so complex that even within your own discipline, there are different courses and papers. You can't understand the other. They have developed their own language. So the issue of language and research is very complicated. Language as data and language to communicate your research. In the name of science, we have developed a way to communicate so that nobody should understand it, except you, or your supervisor, or some of the few persons who are trained to use those words. If you go through that, it is problematic. And there is a style of reporting, so that all subjectivity is removed. It appears like variables are playing themselves. नाच रहे हैं सारे variables. उन्हीं में आत्मा का प्रवेश आप कर देते हैं. There should not be any person. ये आदमी आपके रिसर्च के रिपोर्ट में या पेपर आप लिखते हैं minus humanity, minus human. That is the way you write. Primarily in the quantitative, it is like that. Because there will be subjectivity. उनका नाम देने का कोई सवाल नहीं पैदा होता. There are so many issues. Who owns research? जिससे डेटा ले आए उनका तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं है. You become the owner of knowledge. So there is a power distance also between the researcher and the person who is there, the source of data. All these questions have led to rethinking about methodology, and qualitative methods have taken space. Now a variety of methods have been introduced. You need proper study of all these methods. There are many books which are available. Some of them are discourse analysis, narrative analysis, thematic analysis. They rely on classifying, understanding, deciphering meaning which is inherent in the verbal documents. And I mentioned earlier also, and he mentioned about the inductive and deductive part, that qualitative methods rely more on the things which emerge from data, rather than using your own categories and view reality from the position of those categories. You derive categories from the data themselves. I hope some of you, or maybe all of you, I expect that, must have heard about a method called grounded theory. Now, as the term grounded theory itself tells, that it is development of theory from the ground. And there is one major difference why I am going to talk more about grounded theory, because it is non-linear. In grounded theoretical analysis of data, you go forward and you can come backward, you can go forward, you can come backward. This possibility is there. In quantitative, तो बंदूक में गोली भर दी, अब तो चलेगी चलेगी, जो आएगा रास्ते में मर जाएगा, कोई सवाल ही नहीं है पीछे आने का, अब तो चल पड़िए। डेटा कलेक्शन हो के रहेगा, जो भी है। उसके बाद एक रिसर्चर ने कहा, उससे पूछा वाइवा में कि भाई ये क्यों है, कहा कि कंप्यूटर जाने हम क्या ये नरसी साहब ने थोड़ी की है। Anyway, and this way of moving from the ground, that is inductive. You should distinguish this deductive and inductive. You have a theory and hypothesis and you test that, and here you get the data to develop the hypothesis. The goal of grounded theory is to develop hypothesis, that is a theory. But goal of quantitative is to test a theory, to test a hypothesis. मार खाइएगा अगर आप कहिए कि आपकी हाइपोथेसिस के बिना रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, आपकी हाइपोथेसिस ही नहीं है, क्या रिसर्च है? First you have to have hypothesis, then only you can do research. And in qualitative, you develop hypothesis on the basis of your data. And the analytical categories don't move in a linear way. You can shift to another way of looking at that data. You can recombine, and that is something which you should report. It's important to see the flexibility which is present in qualitative research, and particularly the approach that you use, which is grounded theory, and that data can be in terms of interview or a story or a text, anything can be subjected to that analysis. So, qualitative methods are flexible, interpretive, they respect the meaning, and they also have the possibility of taking perspective in a non-rigid manner. The flexibility is very, very important. I would like to add one more thing. In qualitative inquiry, there is a move which is coming to be very close to first person inquiry. First person inquiry. What is first person inquiry? हम लोगों का जो भी रिसर्च है वो है थर्ड पर्सन इंक्वायरी. Most of the research that we do is third person inquiry. We, in first person inquiry, we can study ourselves. So you must have read in qualitative methods autoethnography, where ethnography is used to subject yourself. आप अपनी खुदाई खुद कर सकते हो. Read about it. I will share a story which often shared by me in most of these discussions. A professor in NIMHANS, Bangalore, was interested in understanding what is the impact of yoga on mental health, quality of life, and progress. So he developed a questionnaire about mental health and effects of yoga and all that. And before actually conducting the study, he visited a real yoga scholar. So yoga scholar was impressed and he told that, well, yeah, you must do it. But why you will tell what is happening to him? Why not? You should do one thing. Go to Nimhans and take leave. Come here, do yourself yoga and experience what is happening. The first person experience. That what yoga does. You are an expert, psychiatrist, a degree from England, and all that, a very competent one. So you must understand. And he did that. And he has published that book. Another way to live. That is the title of it. By Ravi Kapoor. Now, interestingly, he was reporting his own experiences, and his experiences were also observed by his wife, who also happens to be a professor there, and were also observed by the Guru. So there was a triangulation. You are being observed, you are observing yourself, and you are being observed by an expert. So he has reported all this in the book. So what I am saying is that, there are many issues in life, many problems in life where this kind of sensibility is required. And there is no question of sensibility in quantitative research. Now the banduk taiyar hai, goli barni. So you have items, you have questions, you have responses, everything is fixed. There is no possibility of any addition. है उसमें कुछ जो उसमें लिखा है वही बस रहेगा ना उससे कम ना उससे very clear, neat, done. You will get the numbers. तो अगर clarity चाहिए तो उधर जाइए, नहीं चाहिए तो फिर इधर आइए. So qualitative methods are flexible. They allow subjectivity to operate, to function. and they provide insider's view of reality. They help to understand the process, what leads to what. They don't talk about separate variables connected through computation. So, if you look at the construction of reality through method, the two, qualitative and quantitative, approach the issue in different ways. In one place, you don't go with any bias, except that you have a curiosity. In other, you go with perfect bias, with all the variables in place, all the items, all the responses, everything. Now there is another important issue, I think we must address that. We often use the word sample and aim to have generalizations. And your supervisor says that you must have at least 200. If it is 500, then good. 1,000, very, very good. Have as large sample as possible. Because as the sample will increase, it will approach population. पूरी population तो ले नहीं सकते हैं, बड़ी मुश्किल है। सैंपल से काम चलाओ जितना बड़ा हो जाए। We don't know what we gain from this increasing size of sample, except that graph here as it increases, it approaches population. You think that it will be generalized. What is the meaning of generalization? Now, that is one option that we have with quantitative methods. In qualitative method, they talk about theoretical sampling. If you have interviewed a person and you think that he has covered everything, then 1 or 2 persons will be enough. If they have not covered, if you think something else is left, you can have one more interview. But there is no desire to cover the whole world. Increase the size. Theoretical saturation kind of thing is there. That if you think that you have covered almost all domains, if you are satisfied, then you can stop there. Obviously, it is a subjective matter. You don't have any objective measure to assess it that it is complete. And in quantitative, everything has to be complete. That is complete or not, no problem. But it is complete. Decide. So, whether you have covered something or not, or same thing 100 times you have repeated, what you are going to do. So, qualitative methods in this way have larger scope to get the reality. आपको लगा कि कम है तो you can go further. But there the whole design is complete. So in terms of dealing with coverage of a particular theoretical notion, you decide the range, the scope, the modalities as per your construal and understanding. So, qualitative methods provide access to the conceptual map in a better way as compared to quantitative methods. Now, qualitative methods are also quite diverse. They are not of same kind. Like first person method is there. You have phenomenologically strong qualitative inquiry, where your own reflections become very important and critical to understanding, to use the verbal data from various sources, the narrative or story or interview, whatever you get. But the most important thing which is very attractive to me at least, is that in qualitative method, you are able to capture emergent reality. You are open to what is happening. And in quantitative तो फाटक बंद हो गया, आप नहीं कोई रियलिटी आ सकती है, कोई उसका एस्पेक्ट नहीं आ सकता. So respect for emergent reality as far as behavioral and social sciences is concerned is very critical concern. It is very important. लाइफ में भी यही होता है. कल रिजल्ट आया और कल के पहले तक क्या लोग सोच रहे थे और कल क्या सोचे और अब आज क्या सोच रहे हैं, ये सब इमर्जेंट रियलिटी पर डिपेंड कर रहा है. क्वेश्चन आया पर नहीं. How you treat the reality, how you respond. ये सारे नेताओं के स्टेटमेंट्स आप पहले प्री इलेक्शन और पोस्ट इलेक्शन आप देखिए कि क्या थियरी हो दे रहे हैं. It's the emergent reality which is important. कि चुपचाप बैठी थोड़ी हुई है रियलिटी कि गया पकड़ लिया, नोट कर लिए, कैप्चर कर लिए, लकड़ी की तरह से. ऐसा तो नहीं है, पत्थर थोड़ी है वो. It's dynamic. So the material which is dynamic is converted into static. छुमंतर आपने किया, मेजरमेंट कर लिया, आप लेकर चलो. वो आकर रियलिटी आपको कुछ कहेगी थोड़ी. मगर यहाँ तो कह रही है ना, emergent reality in real life is one which speaks, which works. इस रियलिटी को पकड़ना बहुत मुश्किल है. Those who have sociology background or have studied more in social psychology must have heard about symbolic interactionism. And Bloomer says that reality ka, he uses the word obdurate nature of reality. Hello? अभी हम प्रोग्राम में. So, it is very crucial to see that emergent reality is given space in your study. And consider that reality कि उसकी अपनी एक लाइफ है, अपनी एक जिंदगी है. आप पढ़िएगा, इसको समझिएगा. Obdurate nature of social reality. उसको एक मजबूत नेचर उसका अपने आप को खड़ी एक रियलिटी है. Like commitment in implies. Commitment in implies questionnaires आपने ले लिया, लेकिन अगर है तो आप पाएंगे कि 6 बजे भी आप जा रहे हैं in the department and there are people who are present there. That is obdurate nature of reality. तो आपको इस रियलिटी को एक क्वेश्चनर के बदले में वो जो एग्जिस्ट कर रही है वो भी आपको देखना चाहिए. So in this way, respecting the emergent reality, meaning, process orientation, the possibility of capturing interpretation. Interpretation is also very important. Very important. एक item पर somebody has responded yes or no. It is quite possible that the person has said yes because of A or B or C or D. His S is not equal to the S of the other person. Or no is not equal to the no of the other person. क्या सोच के आपने नो कहा और क्या सोच के आपने नो कहा, the two may be very different. They don't mean the same thing. हो सकता है उनका yes बराबर इनका no. It's quite possible. So you need to scratch. थोड़ा केवल ऊपर से खोज के आप मत देखिए, थोड़ा अंदर कैसे meaning को आप पकड़ेंगे. That is the challenge before the qualitative methods. So the list is very long. One cannot talk about all the methods. But grounded theory, where there is flexibility of knowing, the first level of coding that you do, and coding is what? वहाँ पर तो आप वेरिएबल करते हैं, यहाँ पर कोड इज इम्पोर्टेंट, मीनिंग इज इम्पोर्टेंट. यहाँ का जो सिक्का है वो मीनिंग है. इन क्वालिटेटिव मेथड्स यू डील विद मीनिंग्स. इन ऑल दीज मेथड्स जो उसकी यूनिट बनती है, इट इज सम काइंड ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ दैट मीनिंग. मीनिंग मीन्स इंटरप्रिटेशन, हाउ यू हैव अंडरस्टूड समथिंग. So that becomes very important. It is so critical in our everyday life, in real human life, in social interaction. If we miss that, then we miss a lot. It is very important. So qualitative methods provide an opportunity to understand the reality in a better way. I think I must stop here. I see the watch. What is the program? I don't know. Is there anybody to help? Khan Sahab se baat kar लो. And maybe we should interact. आप कुछ questions पूछिए, कुछ comments कीजिए. जो कुछ मैं कह रहा हूँ वो उस काम का है. How you are going to deal with that? Yes, you are most welcome. Yes.
So what kind of a research or what you do, like horizontal or vertical, generally, we understand. So it's just when you're talking about cognitive research, participant research. So do you think it can more relate like with the vertical type of a research when you actually not decide or not make rules or policies or things like that, and maybe research or write something from a third or second person perspective, but rather go to the field and see, and through ethnography and other research methodologies, you live that, you understand, and then maybe try to form something on that.
There is no clear answer to it. मेरा प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चन ये है कि लंच इन लोगों का कब आता है? Yes. मैं ये कह रहा था कि there is no definite yes or no question, because research questions are of various kinds, right? And what is required depends on the nature of question. Whether you have to stay there for some time. Most of the research which we do, I don't know, और आपका बताना भी चाहेंगे कि नहीं मालूम नहीं, कि अपने पार्टिसिपेंट के साथ, सिंगल पार्टिसिपेंट के साथ कितना मिनट आप लगाते हैं. Right? उसके बाद जितना बाजा बजाना चाहिए आप करते रहिए. But if you have a good ethnography of some place, then you can appreciate the depth of understanding which comes out of that. तो ये डिपेंड करेगा कि कितने से आप अपने को सेटिस्फाई करते हैं. As a researcher, कितना आप पढ़ना चाहते हैं. So what kind of research question you have? I don't want to be very critical, but sometimes we do research which is not required.
A lot of things are happening because of the sake. I read in my MPhil, sir, public health related research, an article by Radcliffe. It talks about rigor, basically. It is a wonderful article, every researcher should read it.
Good.
They are talking about basically how all researchers and everyone is literally focusing on data collection. Research is not that. Research is how you formulate a problem till the analysis and how you interpret it, what you said, and how equal rigor needs to be put into every step of the research. And Radcliffe is analyzing every step of the research, that how we understand and formulate a problem and purpose and further on, because we decide first then if you are doing and making any problem a problem, so how and why it is a problem at the first place. Is it you who you feel it is as a problem, or for the community or the the institution you are related to, they find it as a problem? So who are the one contributing to that? Who are the main party there? So that decides what exactly is a problem. Is it real problem, or is it because they wanted a problem to be researched on, that is why it is a problem?
Yeah, I mean, the sources of problems vary in terms of the agency.
Yeah, that's a saying. Like every research,
Yeah.
sometimes we're just doing so for the sake of doing.
Research is a process and it is governed by many factors. Social factors are important. Once upon a time, Mrs. Indira Gandhi talked about Garibi Hatao. As a Prime Minister, she was forced to talk about it. And then a lot of research started about poverty, assessing poverty, measuring poverty and all that. It is difficult to measure poverty. I have done some research about it, written and published. And at that time, I think I wrote one article in 2004, and at that time I found that we had about 34 definitions of poverty. It is very difficult to poverty. It is very difficult to measure poverty. But poverty is so obvious. The problem is there. Now, if you go into the details, you will find that it is because of politics. There is politics of knowledge. How you decide poverty to be more concrete, how you draw the poverty line, will determine who will be covered and who will not be covered. If you want to cover so many people, do it like this. Develop argument for that. If you want less, if you want more, draw the line here or here or here. Get support for that. It's all socially constructed. You see the kind of reservation issue, the different categories which have been created and recreated so many times, still being created. Dalit, and now you have Mahadalit, and of course then Mahadalit. You will create so many categories. You have, what is this? क्या है? EWS, क्या?
Intersection.
So all kinds of things have been done. So it is the treatment of poverty only. How you are defining and read, it's a research is also an art. It is science as well as art, both. How you are doing it. And it's not only what you see, what you don't see is also very important. What are the reasons why you yes. Anybody else? Please.
Sir,
सर सर जैसे कि क्वालिटेटिव प्रोसेस में आपने बताया कि हमारे पास स्केल है 1 to 5 स्केल पे हम किसी चीज़ को मापते हैं क्वांटिटेटिव में लाइक हमारे पास डाटा है कंप्यूटेशन के थ्रू हम रिजल्ट ले सकते हैं बट हमारे पास इशू है कि इमर्जेंट रियलिटी को कब तक देखें हमारे पास रिसर्च में लिमिटेड टाइम होता है तो हमें सर किसी न किसी स्केल को तो लेना है तो क्या बेस्ट होगा हमारे लिए क्वालिटेटिव अप्रोच मिले ताकि हमारे रिजल्ट बेस्ट हो अपने रिजल्ट
From one angle, your question is fine, but from a different angle, अगर आप अपनी बात को थोड़ा सा broader perspective में देखिए, तो whatever problem you take, the problem has to be responded to through the various tools. आपकी झोली में ये सब टूल हैं. तो किस टूल से उसको देखा जाए, किस इंस्ट्रूमेंट से उसको देखा जाए, you have a choice, and then you should think about it कि which tool will help me to answer my question within the given time frame. PhD के लिए 5 साल का टाइम मिलता है. रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट्स जो होती हैं उनके लिए ज़्यादातर रिसर्च प्रोजेक्ट्स का मैक्सिमम टाइम 2 साल दिया जाता है. You have to finish the research project in 2 years, and उसी में you have to develop the tool, conduct the study, collect the data and analyze and write the report. You have to do all that. तो अब आपको उसी के हिसाब से उसकी डाउन स्केलिंग या अप स्केलिंग आप घटाओगे बढ़ाओगे इन सब पे इस पर डिपेंड करेगा. These are practical questions and considerations कि उस काम को करने के लिए कौन सा टूल ठीक होगा. आप अपने क्वेश्चन को छोटा करिए, बड़ा करिए, कितना उसको आप देखेंगे, किसको आप नहीं देखेंगे, ये इस पर डिपेंड करेगा. तो टाइम भी रिसोर्स है और जो रुपया पैसा है वो भी रिसोर्स है, और इसके अलावा और भी कंसिडरेशंस हैं जो कि इंस्टीट्यूशंस के होते हैं. तो इंस्टीट्यूशंस के और फाइनेंशियल, पर्सनल, इन सारे को देख करके ही आप डिसाइड करते हैं कि कौन सा टूल जो है उचित होगा. और इसीलिए कभी कभी अनुचित टूल का भी उपयोग करके आप अपना काम खत्म कर देते हैं. हम क्या करें, 4 महीने में करके देना था, कर दिया. तो ऑप्टिमल और बेस्ट कंडीशन ही सब हो, ये तो संभव नहीं है. जिंदगी तो कुछ इसी तरह से चलती है. तो जो बेस्ट अल्टरनेटिव आपको मिले वो आप करिए. हम तो यही कहेंगे, गिवन दी feasibility in the given circumstances, which tool will help me, तभी आपको पड़ेगा कि इसके उपयोग करने से हमारा भला होगा या इसका उपयोग करने से काम बनेगा. इसके लिए कोई फिक्स्ड फार्मूला नहीं हो सकता. You have to assess the problem, you have to discuss with colleagues and experts कि कौन सा तरीका इसके लिए ठीक है. ये आँख मूंद करके तो ये नहीं कहा जा सकता कि ये लिस्ट है इन प्रॉब्लम्स के लिए ये आपको ये मेथड यूज करो।
सर जैसे एक सर्कमस्टांस ऐसे हो सकता है कि मान लीजिए मैंने जो टूल यूज़ किया वो तो एक गिवन टाइम पर वो परफेक्ट है उसके लिए, जो हमें लगता है मैंने डिस्कस किया, आपसे डिस्कस किया किसी से, वो कुछ टाइम के बाद जैसे मैंने अपने रिस्पॉन्डेंट से कुछ क्वेश्चंस पूछे, उन्होंने आंसर किया, कुछ टाइम के बाद उनका एक्सपोजर कुछ और मिलेगा तो उनके आंसर चेंज हो सकते हैं, बट हमारा जो रिसर्च आउटकम है वो तो स्टैटिक हो गया, मैंने जो रिजल्ट दे दिया तो उसको कैसे।
तो ईमानदारी की बात यह है कि आपके पास टाइम अगर है और सेकंड टाइम पे आप कर रहे हैं तो उसको करिए और करके आप बताइए कि अब ये है, इसमें कोई हर्जा नहीं है। If the pattern changes from one time point to the other time point, अब छत्तीसगढ़ की डेवलपमेंट की प्लानिंग वही थोड़ी रहेगी जो परसों थी, बदल जाएगी, नया रिजीम का नया पर्सपेक्टिव होगा, तो क्या करिएगा इसके लिए? ये बहुत सारे कॉन्स्टेंट्स हैं।
क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में जो हमारे रिजल्ट
नहीं क्वालिटेटिव ऐसा है कि क्वालिटेटिव में तो ये स्कोप है, लेकिन क्वांटिटेटिव में इस तरह का कोई स्कोप नहीं होता है। ये क्वालिटेटिव देखिए, एक जो सबसे बड़ी मुश्किल हमने शुरू में इसका संकेत किया था कि और ह्यूमन रियलिटी इज वन which is temporally and socially growing, developing, dynamic. It is not fixed. That's why physical reality जो है इसका मॉडल नहीं हो सकता कि physical reality तो पक्की पड़ी हुई है, जैसे जब चाहो तब आकर ठोक दो, जब चाहो तब आकर के उसकी स्टडी करो, वैसे ही रहेगा, ऐसा तो नहीं। Here things will change. जैसे इस कमरे में मैं कल 2 साल पहले मैं आया था, वो हाल तक नहीं बना था, अब वो नया एडिशन हुआ है, तो ये नए ढंग का है, आने के बाद उसको पहचानने में थोड़ा टाइम लगा, तो चेंज हो गई रियलिटी, परसेप्शन आपका बदल गया, आगे शायद कुछ और परिवर्तन हो जाए। You have to keep pace with changing reality. तो ये पॉसिबिलिटी तो रहेगी ही रहेगी।
So at a specific time of research, we have to decide the scope also, na?
Obviously,
For a time, you cannot continue with the edge. You have to define what you are actually seeking, and then maybe later on you can continue.
हम लोगों के वो दवा का जो डिब्बा होता है ना, उसके ऊपर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और एक्सपायरी डेट भी होती है, तो आपकी रिसर्च की भी एक्सपायरी डेट ऐसा नहीं है कि एक बार रिसर्च कर दिया तो फिर
कभी दोबारा नहीं।
हाँ, हालांकि हम लोग देखिए ना, हाई स्कूल में जो नंबर मिल गया वो लिख दिया गया तो जिंदगी भर आपके साथ ये विचार करने की जरूरत है।
Please. Hypothesis. As you said, in qualitative research, we don't need hypothesis. It's a process of hypothesis building. But sometimes some says we can develop hypothesis. Then the second question is, when we are performing a mixed method research, when there is quantitative as well as qualitative methods are used, then how we frame hypothesis in that research study?
That will be part of my second lecture. I will deal with that, and I will also give an example of a study I have come with one of my friends who has done some interesting work. Yes, we will discuss that. Or
Sir, as you said, qualitative, like as everyone said, qualitative is interpretive. But we see that we see things from different lenses. There is foundation, belief behind that. So when we see things from different lenses, then that is subjective. Then, as you said, then there will be categorization, like Mahadalit, Dalits, EWL, but we don't reach to any solution then. Like if we see things from, and there is no we cannot reach to a truth through that. that so कि मतलब how will we reach to that solution process or truth process?
I don't want to discourage your journey towards truth. But I would like to mention that search for ultimate truth or single truth is good in the area of spiritual search. In real social life, there are multiple truths. And there are several reasons why we have multiple truths. One reason is that nobody has such a powerful lens that he or she is able to capture the entire view of reality. You have two eyes, they are located here. You can't see what is there in the back. So, I can see from here in this way. I can't see, I am seeing you, but I can't see right now here. Very blurred view of this point, right? So where you are positioned, this is a reality or limit of reality that your view will always be like this. So having limited access to reality is something, a constraint on us. There may be single reality, but different people, right? You are a single reality, but my view and their view and all these people's view of you as a solid object will be very different. So the same physical object in the same time and space is being perceived and appreciated and realized and seen differently. This is the limit on the way we can appreciate reality. And therefore, everybody has different truth. So multiple truth is something which has to be accommodated and negotiated. आपको इसी तरह की जिंदगी में रहना पड़ेगा. If you want to have hegemony of one view, nobody will listen to you. Because वो कहेंगे नहीं हमने तो ये देखा था, हमने तो ये देखा था, हमने तो ये देखा था.
If you skip the truth part, for example, if
But one more thing I would like to add. But the different views of reality that we have, because we are located at different positions. In Hindi there is a word, Sarvagya, who knows everything. We think that God is like that. No human being has this capability to know everything. So this limit has been fixed. You can't appreciate everything. That's why from very old age, बहुत दिनों से people have been thinking about it. I remember the Vedic one which says that there is truth is one, but it is appreciated in different ways. Ekam Sat, Sat is one, but Vipra Baudha Vadanti. Scholars talk about it in different ways. And Gandhiji has talked about it in detail, where he says that's why you should be So, the point is that when we try कुछ नहीं जानता, the other person is also not knowing everything, but he is knowing something more or something different than what I know. So I must respect the other person. And I think one phrase which is now very familiar to all of us is postmodernism. And postmodernism says there is no single truth. You have this fate that you have to move from one interpretation to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. You have to move in this hermeneutic circle, in the circle of interpretation. चक्कर लगाते रहो, यहाँ पहुँच जाओ. But there is one possibility. That possibility is that there are many interpretations, but if you have some ethics, then you can see that which alternative truth helps people to live a better life. अगर इस पर लोग मान जाएं, out of these 5 alternatives are 5 truths, 5 understandings of truth. In that case, one can assess if this alternative will lead to this, this will lead to this, this will lead to this, then you can choose. It requires some kind of self-control, tolerance of others, dialogical way of life, that you should interact with others, you should have dialogue. Only then you can do it. तो ये possibility तो है, लेकिन इसके लिए जो maturity चाहिए, वो हम लोग नहीं दिखा पाते हैं. Therefore there is conflict. We don't appreciate the other's viewpoint. Yes. Or
I want to there may be many views, one may be two minority. Same thing as already said by the Genesis person. For example, the self-trust. Both are similar things or
quite. It depends that to what extent you lead to that. He is talking about a principle in Jaina thinking. Jainism में उसका नाम है स्याद्वाद. Yes and no, and yes and no both, and the alternative of yes and no both, बाप रे बाप, you can complicate it in so many ways. It is difficult to understand. So the reality can be understood in multiple ways. कोई हिम्मत वाला चाहिए तभी काम चलेगा. You need to appreciate the other. That is the value derived from Sadhwa. कि अगर आप ये मानते हैं कि ना जो मैं कहता हूँ वही सही है, मगर ये सारे व्यूज चाहे गांधी का या एकम सत विप्रा बहुधा बदंती और Sadhwa or postmodernism, all of them are saying same thing. There is a possibility of different truths, जिसे hegemony कहते हैं, हिंदी में जिसे वर्चस्व कहते हैं, कि one is the no, हम ही जो कह रहे हैं authoritarian view, उसकी आजकल बहुत आलोचना हो रही है कि ऐसा करना ठीक नहीं है. There is possibility of other view, be ready for. Yes.
जी सर, आपने बताया लाइक क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में हम लोग जो ह्यूमन बिहेवियर है उसको मेजर नहीं कर सकते, तो हम लोग क्यों मेजर करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? जैसे ह्यूमन का बिहेवियर, एटीट्यूड एग्जैक्ट हम मेजर नहीं कर सकते स्केल से, वैसे सबका अलग अलग इंटरप्रिटेशन होता है, तो हम क्यों कर रहे हैं? मतलब इस पर थोड़ा सा प्रकाश डालें.
हम पानी पी रहे हैं, तब तक आप तो जवाब दीजिए.
understand numbers easily. उनको लगता है एक आंसर आपको कंक्रीटिव मिल जाता है, subjectivity comes and relativity is not easy to understand, and people need one word answers to understand and completely give the full answer. yes or no, true or false. We feel it's easy to define.
It is also very sensitive for comparison tests.
इन्होंने बताया कि हमारे सामने ये मुश्किल है कि अगर क्वालिटेटिव मेथड्स इस तरह से कह रहे हैं तो क्यों हम फिर नंबर का यूज करते हैं. I just wanted to share with you that these are the various ways of understanding reality, the job we do as social scientists. मेरी बातों से आपको ये लगा कि हम क्वांटिटेटिव के बिल्कुल खिलाफ हैं, मगर ऐसा है नहीं. Both have their right place. कोई क्वालिटेटिव मेथड नहीं है जो ये बता दे इस कमरे में कितने लोग बैठे हैं, सिवाय इसके कि हम गिने. Only through counting, which is considered as quantitative, I can answer the question कि how many persons are present in the room. तो ऐसा नहीं क्वालिटेटिव ही एकमात्र सच है, क्वांटिटेटिव का कोई मतलब नहीं है, इसका कोई उपयोग नहीं है. ये चर्चा करने का जो पर्पस था वो मुख्य रूप से ये था कि blind use of quantitative for all kinds of questions is problematic. And instead of knowledge, we are getting false knowledge. We are not moving towards knowledge. तो अब हमको लगता है कि बढ़िया बढ़िया टेबल बन गई और मीन एस टी और टी वैल्यू और सब दे दिया तो ज्ञान हमको मिल गया. पता नहीं आपने देखा है कि नहीं, मैंने देखा है बच्चे बीए वगैरह में काफी में बनाते हैं, ग्राफ बनाते हैं, सब बनाते हैं. तो मान लीजिए कि एक का मीन आया 3.5 और दूसरे ग्रुप का मीन आया 3.57. ठीक है, बकवास है, कोई डिफरेंस है नहीं. 3.5 और 3.57 में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं. लेकिन बच्चा कहेगा, आपके मन में भी आएगा 3.57 3.5 से ज्यादा है, मतलब हमारी हाइपोथेसिस पास हो गई. ये टोटली बकवास है. और ग्राफ भी उसका वैल्यू उसकी बढ़ा करके 3.5 और 3.5 से लगेगा जमीन आसमान का डिफरेंस. आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशन जो एक्सपेरिमेंटल बायस है वो इतना जबरदस्त सर, नहीं सर वो सिग्निफिकेंट नहीं, लेकिन उसी डायरेक्शन में जा रहा है. भाई उस रूल का, उस गेम का जो रूल है वो ये है कि सिग्निफिकेंट है तो एक अर्थ है, नहीं है तो नहीं अर्थ है. अब नहीं होने पर भी हम अर्थ वही लगाएंगे, हमारा वही रहेगा, जहाँ मंदिर वहीं बनेगा. ये जो है ना वो 2.57 है, ये 2.57 hardly any no difference. लेकिन आप जबरदस्ती को ना 2.57 ज्यादा है, तो कोई बात है, ये बड़ा मुश्किल है. तो ये हम लोगों के मन में ये भाव रहता है और हम लोग की ट्रेनिंग के हिसाब से लगता है कि क्वांटिटेटिव इज मोर ऑथेंटिक, मोर पावरफुल. ये चर्चा करने का उद्देश्य यही था कि ये भ्रम हमारा दूर होना चाहिए और मेथड का एक विवेक, एक विजडम आप में डेवलप होनी चाहिए. यस
Sir, जैसे qualitative research has more subjectivity and huge number of questions arises on its interpretation. So, should this paradigm shift towards mixed method? Can it give more power to research, or should one stick to the qualitative part only?
This is the theme of second lecture, just after 5 minutes I'm going to talk about. रवि जी आप आ जाइए इधर। Let me introduce him. He is Dr. Ravi, and he is associate professor in psychology in Delhi University, one of its colleges. He did PhD with me, and I have brought him with me to share some of his experiences with a region. मुझे पता था कि ये पूछेंगे हमसे, उसका जवाब देने के लिए मैं the next part which I wanted to address will be illustrated by him. The issue that you have raised about mixed method is moving towards multiple methods. Mixed includes multiple, only then mixing will be possible. Now, mixed method is the next step in contemporary social research. Neither qualitative nor quantitative. Let me mention one thing. There can be qualitatively dominant strategy of mixing or quantitatively dominant strategy of mixing. I will briefly mention a few more things. Recently I have come across some literature. I will share some book with soft copy of that book on multi-method and multi-mixed method to Dr. Khan, and he will share that with you. It's an Oxford Handbook of MMMR, Multi-Method Mixed Research की एक handbook है. There are many interesting chapters. Try them. Now, एक particular method जो कि एक खास discipline में है, for example, ethnography is known more in the case of anthropology. वहाँ पर उसका या sociology, it is used more there. Now, other methods are gradually being adopted and used by people in different disciplines. So what is happening is the boundaries of disciplines are blurring. And now there are many phrases: transdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary, interdisciplinary. So, in that book itself, in one of the chapters, the book on MMR that I am referring to, they have used the phrase de-disciplining. De-disciplining. Doing mixed research and multiple method research requires de-disciplining. That you should drop that bias that you have brought with one discipline. Only then you can go for mixed research or multiple method research. You need to do de-disciplining. Because each discipline, because of its identity issue, जितनी पार्टी होती ना, सभी अपना झंडा और अपना मैनिफेस्टो और सभी लिखेंगे वही की गरीबी हटाओ, लेकिन अलग अलग ढंग से इनकी गरीबी, उनकी गरीबी, सबकी गरीबी, सब वैसे लिखते रहेंगे. But everybody, किसी का लाल झंडा, किसी का पीला. So all disciplines, they, as you have, if you read history of social sciences, you will note it. That and we know that philosophy was the major discipline. सब उसी से निकल के अपना अपना झंडा खड़ा करने लगे और उसके बाद नए नए अब जैसे वुमेन्स स्टडीज इट हैज टू एस्टैब्लिश इट्स ओन आइडेंटिटी, तो आइडेंटिटी के लिए आपको बाउंड्री बनानी पड़ेगी। जब कब्जा करते हैं जमीन पर बाउंड्री बनाते हैं कि हमारा ये रहेगा एरिया। तो विद इन डिसिप्लिन आल्सो क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजी, हेल्थ साइकोलॉजी, पॉजिटिव साइकोलॉजी, 3 टर्म है, तीनों जुड़ते हैं लेकिन सब अपनी अपनी बाउंड्री बना ली है और सबकी अपनी अपनी हैसियत है और एसोसिएशन है और जर्नल्स हैं और सब कुछ, राइट? दे आर कनेक्टेड एंड अनकनेक्टेड बोथ। सो इन द सेम बुक दे हैव यूज्ड द वर्ड दैट doing multi-method and mixed method research is boundary crossing affair. It's a boundary work. Margins पर खड़े होकर के कैसे काम किया जाए, how to negotiate with these boundaries. क्योंकि वो आपका रिसर्च न साइकोलॉजी में होगा न सोशियोलॉजी में होगा, किसी एक डिसिप्लिन में नहीं होगा। So how to negotiate this boundary research is a problem for multiple, and one approach is not good. So how to combine multiple and mixed method research? Now they have journal, multiple method research and mixed method के अलग journal भी publish हो रहे हैं, and they are trying to emphasize many minute differences, methodological problems, and all these things are worked out. What they suggest is, there is one strategy where you use 2 kinds of methods in a sequential order. You begin with qualitative, go to quantitative, then do qualitative and quantitative, sequence में आप करिए। और दूसरा है कि कॉन्करेंटली दोनों का आप यूज करिए। एक और उसमें है कि यू हैव द ब्रॉडर क्वालिटेटिव एंड विद इन दैट देयर इज ए क्वांटिटेटिव नेस्टेड इन दैट। सो देयर आर मेनी काइंड्स ऑफ डिजाइन्स ऑफ मिक्स्ड मेथड एंड मल्टी मेथड रिसर्च, एंड देयर इज स्टिल ए प्रॉब्लम to deal with boundaries, because boundary is important for identity, for meaning, for understanding. So how to tackle that? Now multiple methods का use कैसे किया जाए, किन situations में किया जाए, जैसे हमारे मित्र ने कहा कि भाई quantitative का use करने में क्या problem है या नहीं है, क्यों लोग करते हैं, कैसे करते हैं। A few years back, Mr. Ravi and myself we both discussed कुछ नए ढंग का काम किया जाए। In social life, different kinds of problems take place. हम लोगों ने आइडेंटिफाई किया एक प्रॉब्लम, इसका नाम दिया, जो आजकल बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है, सबसे ज्यादा हो रहा है। आइडेंटिफाई करके देखें आप लोग कर पाते हैं कि नहीं। सबसे ज्यादा सोशल बिहेवियर, पॉलिटिकल बिहेवियर जो है वो क्या है? प्रोटेस्ट। He became interested in understanding protest behavior. तो प्रोटेस्ट बिहेवियर ये भी हो सकता है कि क्लासरूम में मारपीट करा दिया जाए, कुछ करा दिया जाए, एक्सपेरिमेंट भी हो सकता है और भी हो सकता है। All of us know that there are some protest behaviors which have a different shade. पता नहीं आपने नाम सुना है कि नहीं, सुना होगा जरूर। सरदार सरोवर का नाम सुना है? किसी ने सुना है? नर्मदा नदी का नाम सुना है? तो सरदार सरोवर तो बड़ी भारी चीज है भाई, डैम से भी बड़ी चीज वहां पर लग गई है, स्टैच्यू ऑफ लिबर्टी। मगर वो स्टैच्यू ऑफ लिबर्टी जिस चक्कर में बनी है वो भी कहीं उससे जुड़ा हुआ एक किस्सा यह भी है कि पूरा नर्मदा घाटी के हजारों लोगों को हटा दिया गया और उनमें उन लोगों ने प्रोटेस्ट किया कि हमको न हटाया जाए, ये हमारी जमीन है, हमारे पेड़ हैं, पौधे हैं, पशु हैं, सब कुछ है। He became interested in understanding कि उनका प्रोटेस्ट भी वो इंदौर से 4-5 किलोमीटर या 10 किलोमीटर या पता नहीं कितना, देखिए आप बड़वानी ऐसे रिसर्च चल रहा है तो 150 किलोमीटर से प्लेस कार्ड बड़वानी, वहां पर वो पानी में खड़े रहते थे, जल सत्याग्रह किया उन लोगों ने और फिर उस एरिया में उन्होंने टेम्पररी रहने का अपना कुछ अरेंजमेंट किया, उसमें छोटे छोटे बच्चों के रहने के लिए स्कूल भी खड़े किए, a variety of things and the protest continued for a long time. Of course सरकार जबरदस्त है, प्रोटेस्ट का कोई मतलब नहीं, अब वहाँ पर उनको रिहेबिलिटेट करने का कुछ काम चल रहा है तो उसके सिलसिले में भी कुछ हो रहा है। तो दैट सेगमेंट कि ये प्रोटेस्ट बिहेवियर कैसे होता है, क्या होता है, कैसे काम करता है, अब ये सोशियोलॉजी भी है, साइकोलॉजी भी है, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी भी है, इकोनॉमिक्स भी है, क्या नहीं है। तो अब कौन सा मेथड यूज किया गया, वो गरीब भी हैं, वो अनपढ़ भी हैं और ये कि प्रोटेस्ट वो कर रहे हैं, इट इज इन एक्शन, to document that action, how protest is being done, वो भी उसका एक हिस्सा है। इन सारे क्वेश्चंस की झोली लेके गए अपना 2-3 बार वहाँ पर 2-3 महीने रहने का, उन लोगों के बीच रहने का, उनको देखने का, आप इथनोग्राफी कह सकते हैं, इंटरव्यू कह सकते हैं, क्वेश्चनर कह सकते हैं। So we wanted to use these different methods, not a single method, because it was not possible to capture थोड़ी भी reality किसी एक method से कि कितना आपने गुस्सा लिया, इतने से तो क्या पता चलेगा। तो how this protest behavior is being done, अब इसमें साइकोलॉजी कहाँ से जुड़ी? साइकोलॉजी इस तरह से जुड़ी, हमने सोचा कि ये प्रोटेस्ट बिहेवियर किस चीज के लिए है, साइकोलॉजिकली एंड मे बी सोशियोलॉजिकली और फ्रॉम सोशल साइंटिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव, इट इज द आइडेंटिटी ऑफ द पीपल व्हिच इज क्रूशियल। उस आइडेंटिटी के लिए वो लड़ रहे थे, जगह, जमीन, पेड़, ये सारा जो है वो बस 5 मिनट बस। तो आप लोग कह दीजिए कि हम लोग थोड़ा और भूखे रह लेंगे। I will request him to briefly share some of the glimpses of that. अभी उसके बाद हम लोग ब्रेक।
Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to be here with my guru and using this work as an example to be shared with you all. Thank you, sir. Before I speak about the work, actually I was sitting at the back and I was tempted to respond to some of the issues that emerged in this room. Your question about emergent reality, your question. Most of the things actually about the work also, briefly sir has summarized things because actually it was sir who gave me entire freedom and at critical juncture, what is to be done, it was he who sent me to the field. I had no idea that probably I had would have done this work using some questionnaire method or something like that. So one issue, about the difference between qualitative and quantitative research approaches. One is the finality of the conclusion. Your question was probably related to that. It is a claim in the quantitative approach that the result is final, our conclusion is final. It may be problematic, but it is the claim. Whereas with honesty, in qualitative approaches, it is admitted that our results are not final. They can be questioned, they can be revisited. So there is no finality of conclusion, no replication, generalizability. जो क्वांटिटेटिव उसमें होता है ना कि हम जनरलाइज करते हैं, तो ये पहले से ही इसमें स्वीकार कर लिया गया है कि हम रेप्लिकेट करने का क्लेम नहीं कर रहे कि द रिजल्ट्स आर कॉन्टेक्सचुअल. एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, एक टाइम स्पेस में जो रिजल्ट है वो है, और जो आपका था कि भाई अब वो इमर्ज होता जा रहा है तो हम कहाँ रुकें. जहां भी आप रुक सकते हैं रुक जाइए, जो आपको बोलना है बोल दीजिए. वो एक तरह से आपका एडहॉक कंक्लूजन ही है, या एडहॉक एनालिसिस भी हम बोल सकते हैं. You can leave it to yourself and to the other researchers to explore more into it. Plus your question also, जब quantitative हम इतना प्रॉब्लम है तो करते क्यों हैं एटीट्यूड और ये. और सर ने शुरू में ही ये बोला कि इसमें कम्युनिकेबिलिटी एक चीज है. जो नॉलेज हम जनरेट कर रहे हैं, बिल्ड कर रहे हैं, इसको हमको कम्युनिकेट भी करना है, एक दूसरे को समझाना बताना भी है. तो अभी जैसे कि आपसे पूछे कि आपके पास कौन सा मोबाइल नेटवर्क यूज करते हैं.
मुझसे पूछना है.
हाँ, जियो का.
Yes.
जियो के कस्टमर केयर से आपके पास फोन आवे फीडबैक मांगने के लिए.
Yes, sir.
कि आप हमारी सेवाओं से कितने संतुष्ट हैं, ऐसा फोन आता रहता है ना. What extent you are satisfied with our services. आप क्या जवाब देंगे.
हम कहते हैं हमारे पास समय नहीं है, आप बाद निकाल लीजिएगा. मतलब रिसर्च में बहुत काम है.
हमारे पास समय नहीं है, आप बात करिएगा. या आप ये कहेंगे कि ज़्यादा सेटिस्फाइड हैं, कम सेटिस्फाइड हैं. तो ये ज़्यादा कम का पैमाना सबका अलग अलग है. तो हम लोग थोड़ा सा, अगर आप यही क्वेश्चन आपसे ऐसे बोला जाए कि 10 में से कितना नंबर देंगे आप अपने ही सेटिस्फेक्शन, तो आप बोलेंगे 8 या 9. इसका मतलब है कि हाँ ज़्यादा सेटिस्फाइड है. तो जब ये वो रिकॉर्ड करेंगे या कम्युनिकेट करेंगे तो उसकी कम्युनिकेबिलिटी थोड़ी सी बढ़ गई. और ये नंबर वाला जो है, हालांकि पूरा यूनिवर्सल ये भी नहीं है, लेकिन एक लार्जर कॉन्टेक्स्ट में इसका एक मीनिंग हमें समझ में आ जाता है. तो एक तरीका तो आपके सवाल को एड्रेस करने का मेरे मन में इस तरह से आ रहा था. अब आते हैं नर्मदा की कहानी पे. तो इसमें हमने इस प्रोटेस्ट को समझना है. प्रोटेस्ट को इसलिए समझना है कि ये 30 साल से चल रहा है. अब तो 35 साल हो गए. 85-87 में कई सारे संगठन थे और सबने मिलके एक नर्मदा बचाओ आंदोलन एक पैनल के तले हुआ है. अब तो यहाँ से कैसे समझ सकते हैं और ये क्यों कर रहे हैं. अब ग्रैंडफादर, फादर, नाउ सन, द डैम इज आल्सो बिल्ड. उनके डिमांड भी कुछ पूरे हुए, कुछ नहीं हुए. कई चीजें ऐसी निकल के आई जो इनिशियली था नहीं. ये सब कुछ होता है. फिर आप इसको स्टेक होल्डर के पर्सपेक्टिव से समझेंगे कि ऐसा नहीं है कि डैम का नुकसान ही है. जो लोग प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं वो तो ये कर रहे थे ना कि उनका ग्रीवांस है, उनका जमीन डूब रहा है, खेती का जमीन डूब रहा है, आदिवासियों का घर डूब रहा है. पहाड़ी के साथ है ना, अमरकंटक से नर्मदा निकलती है और वहां पे आप लोग 5-7 मिनट्स तो नर्मदा नदी पे कई सारे डैम हैं। सरदार सरोवर सबसे आखिरी डैम है। समंदर में मिलने से पहले गुजरात के 3 स्टेट प्रभावित है, मध्य प्रदेश, महाराष्ट्र एंड गुजरात। सबसे ज्यादा मध्य प्रदेश। टोटल 245 विलेजेस अफेक्टेड हैं। कई सारे ट्राइबल विलेजेस अफेक्टेड हैं महाराष्ट्र के, और ट्राइबल एरियाज गुजरात के और मध्य प्रदेश के भी। तो अब इसमें कितने लोग हो गए? फार्मर्स अलग अलग स्केल के, ऑटर्स, ट्राइबल्स, फिशरमैन, तो और भी जो नदी के किनारे रहने वाले वो सारे लोग अलग अलग प्रोफेशन के, अलग अलग कम्युनिटी के, वो सब अफेक्टेड हैं उससे। तो सबका अपने अपने तरीके का ग्रीवांस है। लेकिन दूसरे तरफ वो लोग हैं जिनको इस डैम से फायदा भी है। इरिगेशन, ड्रिंकिंग वाटर, इंडस्ट्रीज, इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट। तो उनसे अगर यही बात उन्होंने डैम बनने के लिए प्रोटेस्ट किया, सो देयर इज प्रोटेस्ट, देयर इज काउंटर प्रोटेस्ट। तो हमारा पर्सपेक्टिव ये था कि हम जिनको फायदा है उनसे हम नहीं मिले। ये हमारा एक लिमिटेशंस भी है, और हमने पहले ही सोचा था कि वो हम जो एग्रीव्ड पार्टी है, जो डिस्प्लेस हो रहे हैं, डिस्प्लेस्ड पॉपुलेशन, जिनका घर डूब रहा है, जिनका लाइवलीहुड अफेक्टेड है, हम उनको अप्रोच करेंगे। ठीक है। तो हमने कुछ क्वेश्चन बनाए, कैसे हुआ, क्या हुआ, ये वो सर के पास ले गए। भाई आप वहाँ जाएंगे, वहाँ पे यू विल फाइंड सो मेनी पीपल हु आर इलिटरेट, अनएडुकेटेड। वो आपके क्वेश्चन को समझेंगे नहीं, जवाब भी नहीं दे पाएंगे। आप ऐसा कर क्यों? व्हाई डोंट यू गो एंड स्टे देयर? ठीक है। फिर अप्रोच किया, इंटरनेट से पता किया। तो एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है दिल्ली में, नेशनल अलायंस ऑफ पीपल्स मूवमेंट, वो भी एक्चुअली मेधा पाटेकर और उस तरह के एक्टिविस्ट ने घूम के उसको बनाया था। अलग अलग जगह पे जो प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे हैं उसका एक अलायंस। तो उसके ऑफिस से जाके मैं बोला कि मैं नर्मदा घाटी में जाना चाहता हूँ। बोले ठीक है। तो उनका हेडक्वार्टर अब बड़वानी में था उस वक्त, 2014 में मैं गया। तो बड़वानी जिला मध्य प्रदेश में है। तो वहाँ गए, तो वहाँ भी हमें नहीं बुलाया गया। वो धूले में एक यूथ कैंप कर रहे थे, वहाँ आप आइए तो लोग मिल जाएंगे, वहाँ से फिर जाइए। तो मैं अपना बैग पैक करके चलते 2 दिन वहाँ के कैंप में रुके। और वो एक तरह से यंग एक्टिविस्ट लोगों के लिए एक सेंसिटाइजेशन प्रोग्राम और कैंप था। और वहाँ जैसे हम लोग इकट्ठा हुए हैं यहाँ, वहाँ वो लोग इकट्ठा हुए थे अपने प्रॉब्लम्स को लेकर। तो फिर धूले करके एक जगह है महाराष्ट्र में, वहाँ से फिर जबलपुर भी गए थे। दूसरा इन्हीं लोग दूसरा प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे उसके लिए। फिर बड़वानी से, अब नर्मदा वहाँ एकदम पास में बहती है, तो 15 दिन का एक सत्याग्रह था, उसमें पार्टिसिपेट किए। उनके टेंट, उनके कैंप में, फिर महाराष्ट्र के कुछ गाँव में, ट्राइबल एरियाज में। अब इन सब में अब आप किसका इंटरव्यू करेंगे, कहाँ से इंटरव्यू करेंगे, क्या पूछेंगे, ये बड़ा मुसीबत हो रहा था। और कितना आपके ऊपर उनका ट्रस्ट है। ट्रस्ट एक बहुत, वो क्यों सच बताएंगे? और मैं कौन हूँ, मेरा पोजीशन क्या है, मैं कोई सिपाही तो नहीं हूँ, मैं कोई इंटेलिजेंस का आदमी तो नहीं हूँ। ये कई तरह की चीजें होती हैं। तो ट्रुथ, रिसर्च इज अ बिजनेस ऑफ सीकिंग ट्रूथ, एंड सीकिंग ट्रूथ इज अ डेंजरस बिजनेस। ये है। आप धरती यूनिवर्स का सेंटर है, सूरज चारों तरफ इसके चक्कर लगाता है, यही मान्यता थी ना। जिसने पहले बोला, एक सूफी सेंट हुए मंसूर अनल हक, जिन्होंने बोला अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, उसका मीनिंग होता है, उनको भी एग्जीक्यूट किया। तो आप जब, अच्छा, एक तरह का ट्रुथ नहीं हो सकता। तो ये भी एजम्पशन है कि आपका मल्टीपल ट्रुथ का जब कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है, रियलिटी का जब कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है, तो वो मल्टीपल ट्रुथ होंगे। तो जो एग्रीव्ड लोग हैं इस प्रोटेस्ट में, उनका अपना ट्रुथ है। जो दूसरे स्टेक होल्डर हैं, उनका अपना ट्रुथ है। गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज और जो सिस्टम के लोग हैं, ब्यूरोक्रेसी, उनसे आप इंजीनियर्स, इनसे बात करेंगे, उनका अपना ट्रुथ है। तो एक ही जगह पे कई ट्रुथ हो जाएगा। हम इसको समझना चाह रहे थे कि ये लोग जो 30 साल से यहाँ पे अपना सब कुछ लगाए हुए हैं, मतलब सस्टेन करना एक बड़ी चीज़ है। प्रोटेस्ट इज कोई हमें आसान चीज़ नहीं है, और ऐसा भी नहीं कि वहाँ फिर हम पॉजिटिव इमोशंस एक्सपीरियंस नहीं करते हैं। ये चीज़ भी वो उसका एक अपना जॉय है, उसका एक अपना होप है, वो सारी चीज़ें। तो वहाँ से फिर तो ज़्यादा ये रहा कि छोड़ देते हैं कुछ ना, अपना रहते हैं उनके कैंप में, रहना सुबह से शाम तक, सोने का जगह सबका एक ही 2-3 फ्लोर का एक बिल्डिंग था, उसी में बातचीत करना, उन्हीं के साथ खाना पीना, रहना। तो आप एक तरह से वहाँ उनके साथ एक्सेप्टेंस बना रहे, वो आपको स्वीकार कर। फिर बातचीत में अपनी पोजीशनिंग भी निकल के आती है, मतलब एज ए रिसर्चर क्वालिटेटिव मेथड में ये भी आपका क्या पोजीशन है, आपके क्या वैल्यूज हैं। तो मेरा पोजीशन ये है कि भाई समाज में एक सोशलिस्ट पोजीशन जो है, ब्लाइंड डेवलपमेंट की तरफ नेचर को लेके, एनवायरनमेंट को लेके, एनवायरनमेंट का हम वो ना करें, मतलब एक तरह से जो अभी चल रहा है पूरा, थोड़ा एक सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट हो जिसमें कि हमारा पर्यावरण और हमारा वातावरण सब बचा रहे। तो वैसे लोग भी हैं उस प्रोटेस्ट में, एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट भी हैं, नेशनल एंड इंटरनेशनल हर तरह के। तो जो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव था, और बाद में जब हमें तो मेथड के उस पर तो भाई हमने कॉन्वर्सेशन भी किया, हमने पार्टिसिपेंट ऑब्जर्वेशन भी किया, ग्रुप में भी हम बैठे, और सेकेंडरी एथनोग्राफी भी आप कह सकते हैं, सेकेंडरी सोर्सेज भी यूज किया। उनके जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स थे, आंदोलन का अपना डॉक्यूमेंट भी होता है, उनका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन। इसके अलावा कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्री मूवीज हैं, जैसे ड्राउंड आउट एक मूवी है, एक मूवी है नर्मदा डायरी। तो इसमें भी काफी कुछ शुरू के दौर के 80s के 90s के उनको भी एनालाइज किया। उनके कुछ प्रोटेस्ट सॉन्ग्स हैं, और यहाँ से देख के हमें ये लगता है कि ना ये आंदोलन करने वाले लोग इनकी कोई भक्ति भावना या रिलीजियस सेंटिमेंट या स्पिरिचुअल टाइप के नहीं होते। ग्राउंड पे एकदम हकीकत मुझे दूसरी महसूस हुई, सर से शेयर हमने उसको डाला, रिलीजियो स्पिरिचुअल। तो उनका तो वो गीत ही शुरू होता है, ये प्रोटेस्ट सॉन्ग है, माँ रेवा थारो पानी निर्मल खल खल बह तो जाए, इंडियन ओशन के उसमें गाया भी गया है बैंड में। तो वो माँ मानते हैं, नर्मदा माँ मानते हैं, उनकी पूजा करते हैं, और उनको लग रहा है नदी बर्बाद हो रही है, हमारा तो डूब ही रहा है। उसके बाद इसमें अलग अलग आइडेंटिटी के लोग हैं, फार्मर की अपनी आइडेंटिटी है, ट्राइबल की अपनी आइडेंटिटी, एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट की अपनी आइडेंटिटी, कटिंग अक्रॉस द आइडेंटिटी, इन सब लोगों की एक कलेक्टिव आइडेंटिटी वहाँ इमर्ज हो रही है, जो उनके प्रोटेस्ट को शेप करने में, सस्टेन करने में, मोबिलाइज करने में, उस आइडेंटिटी के थ्रू मोबिलाइजेशन, ये एक उनको ऐसे चल रहा है। और इसी का असर फिर उनके आइडेंटिटी पे भी, तो उस बदलती हुई आइडेंटिटी को भी हम महसूस कर पा रहे थे कि वो किस तरह से कुछ चीज छूट रहा है, कुछ नई चीजें आ रही हैं। समय की कमी है और रिमाइंडर्स के पास